Hi, everyone. I am Violet Ayala, founder of FemCity, and you're joining me today for our Monday Motivation Series. It's all about business and marketing and growing your brand. Today, I've invited the fabulous Dionne to join us. She is going to teach us today about SWOT, SWOT. I had no idea what that was. Did I even get the acronyms right, Dionne?
Yes, like
Okay,
you're well, like you're swatting a fly, not the SWAT team.
SWOT. I didn't know what it was until I met Dionne. And of course, now Dionne and I work together, which is great because we've been friends for like 200 years. So it's all, now we're officially working together. And so, what I love most about Dionne is that she really creates a strategy and business development guidelines for businesses that want to step into that bigger and better light for themselves. So she definitely takes people from level 5 to penthouse.
Yeah.
And we already have some love that's coming through. We have Jennifer Ryan is joining us from Miami,
Hi, Jennifer.
and Cecilia, also I think Cecilia from South Texas. So anyway, so Dionne, I know you specifically help creatives, but I know you help many others, not just creatives.
Yes.
And anything you want to add to what I just shared about you?
I love creating SWATs, and so I talk about it all the time. Hi, Danielle. I talk about it all the time, and so I'm glad. And every time I say I SWAT myself, people are like, "What? What do you do?" So I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to be here. And yes, I'm a fashion retailing and merchandising professor. And so it's from that work um, that I have learned to love SWAT. I SWAT in the classroom. This is going to be cute. I'm like, I SWAT. We giggle a lot, guys. So if I start crying here.
Well, we were giggling
Um,
also, just like so, FYI, we were giggling in the green room because I apparently sounded like Gollum from
Lord of the Rings. You
Lord of
did.
the Rings. Thank you, Lord of the Rings. And then of course Dionne and I went crazy over that, and then we giggled and we had tears in our eyes, and so that's why we're a little giggly. But today we're going to get very serious about business, about
Let's talk business. Let's talk money. And so in the classroom, I lead my students through a series of SWATs. We SWAT, typically every year I have them SWAT Zara, because my work as a graduate student is in consumer behavior in the luxury space. And so I always like to bring what I'm doing in the graduate level down to my students in the undergraduate level. So I've SWATted Zara, H&M, Macy's, any of the big box stores we've SWATted. In the graduate world or in my graduate work, actually my final assignment was swatting all of the stores that are under Tapestry, and so in Capri Holdings. So I've swatted Coach, I've swatted Versace, I've swatted Kate Spade, Stuart Weitzman. And typically, I'm swatting them to see where they are in the marketplace, right? Because retail is forever changing. And so that's where the SWATs really come from, is to find out where your footing is in whatever marketplace you're in. So for me, I come from retail, I come from fashion, but I apply it to my business all the time. And so that's where me swatting myself comes from.
all right, and so we had a lot of love that came through. Jersey, of course, Danielle. We know you're from Jersey.
Hey, Jersey. And I saw T Dot here too. I saw Toronto. I don't know if that's the,
Yeah,
yep, I saw
Toronto's
T Dot.
here. I
Hey,
don't know if
T
that's
Dot.
Heather or Lynn. I mean, we've got like hundreds over there in Toronto area, of course, San Antonio.
Hey, San Antonio.
And then Cecilia,
Welcome.
oh my precious. Going back to anyway, it's Carol. Okay, it's Carol from Toronto. All right, awesome. So really quick, what is the so SWOT is a way to do an analogy or analysis of your brand.
Strengths. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you that. What is SWOT for like clear, like for people that are not in this world? What does SWOT
Well,
mean?
do you know I am the professor, so you know I have a PowerPoint. You wanna hop into it?
Let's do it.
Let's go. So everybody get out your pens and papers. You're a part of my classroom. You're part of Fashion Entrepreneurship 101. Are you
By
ready?
the way, this is also for those that are not in fashion and not in
Yes.
retail. So I want to make sure, I know Dionne mentioned that a couple of times, but this is for all business owners. You can benefit from this class. All right, take it away.
Yes, and that's why we're doing this because, that's another thing. I launched Dionne Creative because as somebody that's in the industry, I was working, styling people and doing visual merchandising, and we got to the business part. Where are you going to put these pictures? What are you going to do with them? What are your blog posts? What are your storyline, your theme? And they were like, huh? And I'm like, well, what did your SWOT tell you about your customer? And they're like, SWOT what? So that's where this came from. So it's definitely not about fashion. It's more about business, because although I teach fashion, I teach the business of fashion. My focus is consumer behavior in the luxury space. And so I actually train fashion students to be business people. So let's get into the
By the way, that was me. That she's being kind, but that was me. That was like, what's that? What is SWOT? What are you talking about? That was me.
Right. So let me make sure I close out my Neiman's and Saks account. No, I'm kidding. I don't want you to see all the goodies. All right, so let's hop into the PowerPoint, share screen.
And if you guys have questions, let us know. We'll pause frequently to see if there are any questions, and I'll read them out to you, Dionne, so it's easier for you. Okay.
Okay, so stop me if you get a question you want me to clarify. Does everybody see the screen conducting a SWOT?
I see it.
You see it? Okay, so welcome, class. Today we're going to go over conducting a SWOT analysis, an attempt to understanding your market position. So my intent is to provide clarity on what a SWOT analysis actually is, provide examples of a brand's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So yes, Violet, SWOT is actually an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And, I got ahead of myself. And to share ideas for your own SWOT analysis. So what is a SWOT? A SWOT is a strategic planning technique used to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the marketplace. I use this definition. I pulled it out of one of my fashion entrepreneurship books. And so as an academic, I always cite my resources. And so I have the book there at the bottom for you, if anybody's interested. So the results of a SWOT. I'm sharing a picture here of me and my girlfriend, Dr. Abu Zaid, who's actually a FemCity Miami member. She came to me to help her with her photo shoot and her styling, and she did this right after she graduated from the doctoral program. She was hooded with a doctorate in higher education. And so we had a conversation about what she was now transitioning to. She'd been in academia for about 10, 11 years. And so, no, more than that, probably about 13, 14 years. And it was time to transition into being a consultant. And so what I helped her do, with the photo shoot, before we even got into it, I talked to her about where she was going. What did the marketplace look like? What area of high academia was she trying to get into and consult for? And so we had this conversation, and from that conversation came the photo shoot, okay? So the results of a SWOT are going to aid in the development of a storyline for your social media. Okay, it's going to guide you, because as you get the results, you'll be able to kind of figure out exactly from what angle you want to talk to your audience. It provides direction for shoots and campaigns, as I talked about with Tanya. Before we even got to the campaign, we had to figure out what kind of photo she was going to need, who she was talking to, and what that consumer is looking for in terms of social media. It offers clarity for the hiring of coaches, consultants, stylists, photographers, and etc. This is the biggest thing, because a lot of times we get our headshots done, we get the photos done, and we're hiring coaches, we're hiring photographers with no real clarity or understanding of where we're going in the market that we're entering into. So you see this a lot when you hire a photographer. You hire a photographer that's really great at events or bridal, and you're like, oh, I just need a photographer. But that person doesn't know how to do branding photos. That person doesn't know how to shoot for social media. That person doesn't know how to shoot for office space and those type of things. And so before you go to hire people, you need to know what direction you're in, and that SWOT will help point you in that direction. Same with stylists, same with coaches. Until you know what you need, you may not need a full branding coach. You may need a marketing strategy coach. You may need a scaling coach. And so the results of the SWOT are going to help you make that decision. And then lastly, it helps you define your marketing strategy and your corresponding imagery. So let's get into strengths. Okay, we're going to get to the nitty gritty. So your strengths, when you're looking at your strengths, you're looking at your competitive advantage in the market. What is it that you bring? Okay, so what you want to look for or things that you can talk about are your uniqueness, your value to the market. And so uniqueness, I would say, and I'm going to bring myself into this a lot to provide clarification. So when I do my SWOTs and I think about uniqueness, I think about my trainings. I think about the master's certificate that I just completed. I put my 25 plus years in the industry. I think about even location as uniqueness, right? I'm in South Florida, the vacation destination. People save up years to come to this place that I take for granted every day. Every time I go to Miami, I'm like, people actually want to come here. But that's a unique part of my brand. I'm a South Florida girl. I was born in London. My parents are Jamaican. You really have to take an inventory and see what makes you unique in the marketplace. And your perceived value to the market, your imagery, your pricing. Your pricing may be your competitive edge. Maybe you want to help, you want to do a membership program, and instead of charging, $500 a month, maybe you want to work with the emerging entrepreneur. And so your strength is that you're priced appropriately for your market. Your resources, this is huge. And it's not just about, again, I come from retail, right? And so we're not just talking about your resources and time in terms of manufacturing, but time. For me, time is a resource. And so, do you have a large amount of time to work with your clients? Maybe you have 3 months to dedicate to one client. Like, what is it about? What part of the resources part is a strength in your area of expertise? And then your product performance. So when we think about strengths in terms of products or even your services, is there one part of your business that is doing really, really well and is really, really like kicking it? That's the part of your strengths. And so if I take it back to the classroom and we were doing a SWOT on Zara, I would say that they have the competitive edge and that they bring luxury to the masses, right? That's their strength. Okay. Any questions so far, Violet? Anything coming up, or are people writing?
Nope, no questions yet. But if you guys have questions, add them there. I'll go ahead and ask Dionne on your behalf.
Okay, perfect. So weaknesses are your areas of vulnerability. So sales trends can be a weakness. Supply chain. Right now, I'm feeling for any entrepreneur that has any part of their supply chain in Eastern Europe because of what we're going through during the pandemic. That was huge with supply chain, and we're still going through that, right? And so if you're someone that had vendors in Asia, if you have vendors in Eastern Europe right now, if you're waiting on manufacturing goods or things like that, if you had a VA in Eastern Europe, like these are things that are areas of weaknesses, right? And so these areas of weaknesses are not to say in an area where you're lacking, it's just an area that you really want to pay attention to, right? I think with everything that's going on in the world, there were so many retailers realized that they needed to be online. That was a weakness of theirs. They didn't have a good omni-channel presence, right? And so technology, if not being on certain social media, my husband calls it one point of failure. He's in IT, so he's already talking IT talk. So, maybe all of your business is focused on Facebook. That's a weakness, right? Because if something happens with Facebook, we see this as a content creator. I see this all the time with Instagram. Instagram will have a glitch, knock us out for the day. And I have like a sponsored post to go out. It can't go out because Instagram's down. So that technology can be a vulnerability. Marketing and then lack of resources. When I'm doing my SWOTs for myself, I always look at, my father passed away, so I'm a caretaker, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. And so time for me, I have to look at that as a weakness because I may not have as much time as other people that are in my in the marketplace or my competitors. Opportunities are ways to expand. So look through your business and look at, new trends that are happening, new systems and technologies, new trainings. What new trainings can you take on? Right now, you can learn how to do reels and learn how to do idea pins. And I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs that are within FemCity because I know that we're all trying to get a hold of social media and all the new technologies that are coming out. So what new trainings are available? For me, I decided to go back and get my graduate certificate in merchandising and retailing because I wanted to be able to teach at the graduate level. So I teach currently at the undergraduate level. Do I ever know if I'm really going to teach at the graduate level? I don't know, but I want to have that behind me just as a tool in case I want to go that route. And then also keeping myself active within the field is always going to put me above the rest, right? So new markets, another opportunity could be new markets. Maybe you've marketed your business to Gen Z, but you realize that you have a service that would really benefit, our boomers. Maybe you are a new mom. You've gone, you were in the single, unmarried state, and now you're a married mom of two, and that's a new market that you want to go into. You may have had a newborn, but now you have a toddler, so now you can go into that market. So opportunities are really about looking at spaces that you haven't entered, but definitely there's potential to make money there. And then collaborations, that's also being able to look out into the marketplace and see if there are any businesses or brands that you can collaborate with that are going to bring business your way. And then threats. Threats are external issues. We can look at labor market shifts right now. And again, I come from retail, but there's a huge labor market shift because people are choosing to not go back to work. They're choosing to work from home. They're looking for remote opportunities. And so if you have a job and you're requiring individuals to come into the office, guess what? That position may stay unfilled for a little bit, right? That's a threat to your business. New competitors in the marketplace. And so when we talk about new competitors, we're not talking about like competition, like, oh, I hate her. But it's more about new people entering. And I really don't want you to get into the spirit of competition, but whenever somebody new enters, right, they bring a new knowledge. Okay. So you don't want to look at it as, having to measure up, but be aware of what's going on in the marketplace in your sector. Consumer buying trends. For me, I looked at this, and I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. Consumer buying trends in my area, when I was doing Poshmark and eBay, a lot of my fan base wanted me to do lives, right? That's the new trend within retail, is doing lives, going live. Well, that's not my forte. I'm an introverted extrovert. I've realized that. And so doing lives at 7:00 at night for 2 hours just was not my thing. And so that was a threat, because I knew that my competitors were well and able, going well into midnight doing the lives. Okay. So that was a threat to my business. Volatile markets, again, we see what's going on in the news. And so people may be apprehensive about spending right now. They may be apprehensive about going on vacation. They may be apprehensive about many different things, right? Because we're being triggered every day by what's going on in the world. And so it's a volatile market, the stock market, and those things affect your business. And so we have to be aware of what's going on in the marketplace and what's happening in the life of our consumers. So that's where that threat. And then obsolescence. What you have is what you're offering right now necessary for where your client is or where your customer is. That's what obsolescence means. And so it's a threat, because something that may have sold crazy, a year ago, 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic, all of a sudden it's like crickets. And so you have to look at that objectively. So the goal of the SWOT is to leverage, this is what I really want you to grab a hold of, is that the goal of the SWOT is to leverage your strengths. Okay, so you really want to get it down on paper, get all your stakeholders together. And that's another thing with the SWOT. You want, if you're a solopreneur, then, it's just you. But if you have a business with multiple stakeholders, if you do have, freelancers that work with you, if you do have employees, you want to get everybody together, because what you think may be a strength may be a weakness on the other side. And so you want to make sure that you're getting everybody together to do this SWOT, so that you have an what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but unbiased. You want an unbiased report. Remember, this is an analysis. This is for strategic planning to make your business better. So it's really not about whether your feelings are hurt in the process. This is about strictly the business. Okay, not your personality and whether they like you or not. It's how is the business functioning, and is it going to survive in the marketplace? So again, you want to leverage your strengths. You want to resolve your weaknesses, you want to maximize your opportunities, and you want to avoid threats. I'm going to say that again. The goal is for you to use the SWOT to leverage your strengths, resolve your weaknesses, maximize opportunities, and avoid threats. So I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to take you into my SWOT, and in the decision to launch Dionne Creative, I didn't just all of a sudden just wake up and go, oh, I'm just going to launch this. I really sat down with my current businesses, what I was working on, being in school, being a caretaker, being a mom, being a wife, everything that was going on in my life, and really had to make the decision whether Dionne Creative was right for me and right at that time. So we're going to get into my SWOT and what the results were for me. So the strength of my business, or what I saw as a strength of Dionne Creative, was that I did have the master's certificate in merchandising, that I did have market value, because, it's going to keep going. I'll just talk as it goes. Market value. the first thing that people want to do when they're launching a new business or rebranding is get their photos. They all want to be styled. They understand that fashion is a necessity. So I had market value in terms of that, is that people did see, people did see the value in what I was bringing to the table. So that was a strength. That's the first thing that people think about when they're branding. They always want to get new headshots. They want to invest. They want to get a stylist. That was a strength of Dionne Dean Creative. And then I also live in Miami. I live in a burgeoning, or South Florida, Fort Lauderdale. I live in a burgeoning fashion capital. We have access to all fashion outlets. We have multiple Louis Vuittons. We have multiple Fendis. We have Art Basel. We have art. We have culture. There's so much happening here, and people want to be here. Okay, so that was a strength of Dionne Dean Creative, being based out of South Florida. Weaknesses, I quoted my weaknesses as lack of time. And to me, just for the industry, time was of the essence, because although I live in a burgeoning capital, fashion capital, there's something happening every day. If I want to go out at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday, I will find something happening. But my life isn't set up like that. And so although I live in a burgeoning fashion capital, I know that I'm not going to be able to go to all the events, network, and socialize the way that others in my industry are able to do. Weaknesses, client demographic and scalability. Will the audience, for me, weaknesses were, will the audience that I have spent so much time building on social media for Dionne Dean, for Dionne Dean Vintage, for Shop Dionne Dean, for my YouTube content creation life, will they transition over to Dionne Dean Creative? That's an unknown for me. And so that was a weakness. I put that as a weakness because I know who they are in terms of my fan base, but not necessarily are they the people that I would market Dionne Dean Creative to. So I call that a weakness. And then also a price point. And this may be a tender topic for some of you, but I know based on my work with my mentor, Ms. Violet De Ayala, I'm priced quite highly for my industry, but I'm priced based on my strengths. I'm priced on the fact that I do have a master's, that I've been in the industry for 25 plus years, that I have all this expertise. And so my price point to some may not be of value, and I put that as a weakness. So, and we'll go into that when we get into the opportunities, but a price point could be a weakness, a foreseeable weakness. So opportunities for me were the opportunities to collaborate with photographers and videographers and designers so that I could meet those individuals that are willing to pay that price point. If I align myself with a certain level of photographer, videographer, and designer, I can kind of piggyback off of what they're doing to get that high level clientele. Another opportunity, I was thinking about collaborating with co-working spaces for workshops and co-working spaces in certain areas of town where they are working with individuals, high achieving individuals that would be able to pay my price point. So I saw that as an opportunity. And then webinars and live events, I saw that as an opportunity. Again, working within my time. So, I always tell people after 3 o'clock, I become a mom. And so, who is going to be there in my price point, who's willing to pay my price point, who would come to a webinar at 11 or a lunch and learn or something within those hours. So I saw that as an opportunity. Now, this StreamYard is cutting off the last two, but I will do the last two of threats. But the threat for me is obsolescence. And the second one is low cost. I don't know, Violet, can you read the last two for me?
If I unmute myself. No, because it has that stop sharing.
Okay, well, you guys will see the last two, but I'll cover obsolescence. Obsolescence for me, I think it was perceived value and personal shopping. And so those were threats for me because there may be individuals that don't want to pay for styling because they can go to Saks and they can get a personal shopper, or they can go to Neiman's and get a personal shopper, or they can go to Nordstrom has an excellent personal shopper program. And so how I'm combating that is to up my strengths. Like, absolutely, you can go to those individuals, but you're not going to get that one-on-one feel. You're not going to get the Dionne Dean experience that so many people love, right? And so that's when you see a threat, you have to combat it with your strength. And then, what I was saying with obsolescence is that, with styling, you have to stay. Oh, my daughter's about to walk in, so you're going to hear her. Obsolescence, you have to stay ahead of the curve. I'm teaching, my love. You have to stay ahead of the curve. And so there is a there is the, not fear, but there is the threat. It's really the threat of obsolescence. And that's, in order to combat that, I'll go to the fashion weeks. I'm always at as many shows as I can go to and networking and doing things that are still within fashion within my time frame. So yeah, that's it for me. I'm hoping that you guys learned, and I hope I wasn't too long-winded.
No, it was perfect. And I know you had you have a lot going on with Riley now coming home. I love that you mentioned, I actually wrote it down, because when you do your pricing, when you're working through all of this, and this is for all of you to rewind, if you didn't have time to walk through the steps, because obviously Dionne rushed through it because we only had 20 something minutes. So I would rewatch it from the beginning and then pause and do the worksheet, do the presentation that she did, spend time on each of those bullet points that she shared on your own personal brand. So take the time to do that. But I love that when you get into the weaknesses and the threats, I know that might be uncomfortable for some of you, specifically when it comes to like your value and like what makes you different. But really think about it from another person's perspective. Because sometimes we'll go, well, I don't know what my threats are, or I don't know what makes me unique. You can reach out to other people also, maybe former clients or some of your friends that know your brand and know your business very well. So I know it's challenging to do it because you're working on yourself, but I think it's really important to do this exercise because you can then strategize. You can work on your business development. You can work to see like, how do you scale? Like I know scaling was one of them. But I wrote down, Dionne, I love that you mentioned you may not be of value to everyone.
Yes.
And I love that because not everyone is going to be for you and you are not going to be for everyone. And it's totally okay. I think a lot of times we try to capture the audience and we try to get everyone to buy from us. And it's not going to be like, I, for instance, probably eat a different type of bread than Dionne eats a different type of bread, right? Maybe she likes, I don't know, pumpernickel, which I do love pumpernickel.
Ezekiel bread.
Yeah, or Ezekiel bread. And then I like, so there is something for everyone. So when you're doing this, just don't allow that mindset to come in. Just allow yourself to expand and explore. Danielle said, I love this topic because there are so many opportunities to do this, and I haven't done mine in a while. I have a different pro process, but SWOT is from a wider lens. Love it. Yeah.
And let me say that, remember, this is a business strategic planning exercise. It's not a value judgment on yourself. And so when I do a SWOT, I'm not looking at Dionne Dean and my performance. I'm looking at the business. That's it. I'm just looking at how the business is performing, and I'm looking at my analytics. I'm looking at YouTube. I'm looking at Instagram, and that's why I'm always emphasizing to potential clients and current clients, like, you have to do something because you need the numbers. I think that's, if there's one great thing about social media, is that you get to look at the numbers. Like, it's all data driven, right? And so do not look at, again, this is not about you. This is not about Dionne Dean. This is about the business of Dionne Dean. And again, I teach design students who are creatives and just very sensitive. And so, and even just the clients that I'm meeting, but I will say this, and let me say this too. This is not something that you do at the beginning of your business. Yeah. You need data. You need to be in this thing for a good 3, 4, 5 years. So this is not something that you do after the first 6 months. No, this is something that, and I can tell you exactly, when I launched last year, I had been in business and had Poshmark and eBay and everything else for multiple years. And so I was like, okay, it's not giving me the joy that I had. And so there's something else. What is that something else? And so I thought about Dionne Dean Creative, and it kept on coming up. And so I just positioned it. I was just like, okay, if we're going to do this, what are the strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities and the threats? And if the weaknesses were more than the strengths and I didn't feel like I could convert those, then it was like, oh, it's not going to work. But it wasn't. And so actually in doing that SWOT, I swatted eBay and Poshmark out because it wasn't bringing joy. And so this is not something that, again, you want to do at the beginning, because at the beginning, you don't have anything to kind of go by. But if you've been in this thing 5, 10, 15 years, then you absolutely, and like, we learned in the scalability class, if you're at that point where you're just like, okay, I want to go from making 5,000 to 10,000 or 10,000 to 20,000, that's the time to do the SWOT. Because you don't want to then launch into something, spend all your money on a new coach, new headshots, a new computer, hiring all these folks, and it falls flat because you haven't done any you haven't done any of the work. You haven't done any of the strategic planning. So I'm hoping that you understand that it's really not a judgment on you. It's a judgment of the business. You're strictly looking at the business.
I find that when I have to do this kind of work, and for FemCity PR specifically, like when I'm pitching FemCity, I have to use I have to like kind of like remove myself as Violet and then reposition myself in as an outsider or a publicist of FemCity. So I can look at things a little bit more
Objectively.
Yeah, and not with emotion, because that's where we get stuck with, like, you know, like just the little things can really spin us off into like this whole entire rabbit hole. But just sometimes you have to do that. Same thing with this, you know, if you have to like remove yourself energetically or emotionally and then like rehire yourself with another, like, okay, I'm just going to look at this like without any emotion, purely based on numbers, let me see where I'm at. That seems to help, at least for myself. It helps me a lot. So
yeah. Well, if you have an LLC, if you're incorporated, it actually is another person. It's not you.
Right.
That's the way I see it. That's the way I teach it. Like, this is not you. This is the business. If you have that, then it's really not you. You have to detach from it, right? If you look at all these big brands that are selling their businesses, they have that name, but that was a business. That's a whole different entity. So really, you know, again, if that's you, know that that's an actual person. So treat it as such.
Yeah, love that. All right, so you guys know how to reach out to Dionne. Dionne, what's the best way for them to? I know you had your slide up, but they may have missed it. What's the easy way for them to find you?
So it's DionneDeanCreative.com, and you can peruse the website. You can contact me. You can send me an email at Dionne@DionneDean.com. But yeah, I'm here to help you SWOT. And so when I do SWOT analyses, it's really a part, as you saw with Dr. Everzaid and all my other clients, it's really part and package of what I do. They come in for the styling and the shots, the photo shoots, and then we get into the larger conversation of what do you want this brand to look like and how do you want to be perceived in the marketplace. And again, I work with individuals that are already in the business of it, and they're just taking it to another level. They've graduated with their doctorates, and so now they're stepping into the consulting space, or they're now going to go from, you know, I just signed one client today who's stepping away from the hairdressing chair and is now going into courses so that she can build a $6-7 figure business from the teaching space. And so, you know, doing a SWOT is a part of the business. And so if you want to be a part of the Dionne Dean creative world, fly down to Miami, get your photo shoot done. Yes. Come on down. We'll go shopping and have the whole do. So yes, in all reality, you can send me an email, Dionne@DionneDean.com, and I will help walk you through this process.
Awesome. Thank you. And we had some love that came in. I'm glad it came in even for a few minutes late. Thank you. So awesome. Thanks for all the love. And for those that want to watch it again, just hit rewind. We'll go ahead and post it over on the FemCity classroom. This is a public class, so anyone can have access to this. Jennifer said, this was great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for, spending half an hour. I appreciate it. And I know Violet appreciate it. And thank you, Violet, for this platform. We appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, we wish you a wonderful rest of the week. And for those that have never heard of FemCity, we have a great 30-day trial membership ready for you over at FemCity.com. Head over there for more classes like this, and onward and upward. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.